Welcome to Planet Poet Words in Space. I'm your host, Sharon Israel, and it's my pleasure to welcome poets Bertha Rogers and Mary Gilliland back to the show. Bertha and Mary will discuss their new books and talk about their friendship and life in poetry over the last few decades. Hi, Bertha. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi. Thank you so much for being on the show. And it's so nice to have you on together. I'm going to read your bios.
Okay.
I'll start with you, Mary. Mary Gilliland is the author of Ember Days, The Devil's Fools, winner of the Codhill Press Pauline Ushmanowitz Poetry Prize. I hope I'm pronouncing that okay. And the CNY Book Award. And the Ruined Walled Castle Garden, winner of the Bright Hill Press Poetry Prize. Mary's honors include the 2023 International Literary Seminars Kenya/Fence First Prize in Poetry and a Cornell University Council on the Arts faculty grant. Mary is a poet, ecologist, and occasional essayist in New York's Finger Lakes region, where she has transformed a rocky acre of 6 Mile Creek into a fawn-filled wonderland. Sounds great. Bertha Rogers is a poet, translator, and visual artist who lives and writes and walks on a mountain in New York's Catskills. Her recent poetry collection, published by Salmon, publisher in Ireland, is What Want Brings, New and Selected Poems. Her translation of the Anglo-Saxon riddle book, Birch Brook, New York. Bertha was named first poet laureate of Delaware County, New York in March 2005 and was the founding director of Bright Hill Press and Word Thursdays, a nonprofit organization in New York's Catskill Mountain region. And as you can hear from Mary's bio, Mary won the Bright Hill Press Award that was given to her by Bertha Rogers and Company at Bright Hill. So that's pretty wonderful.
We were happy to do it. It was a beautiful book. Just wonderful.
And it's beautifully made, and I understand there are about 5 copies still available.
Yeah. Very good.
We'll produce the links for that. Remind me, Mary. I'm going to dive. Let's dive right in. Bertha, would you briefly introduce your book, What Want Brings,
Sure.
New and Selected Poems, and then read Holy Beast from Wild Again, which is another book.
I'll just, there you go. You can see it.
Right. We don't have video, but it's a beautiful,
there we go.
It's a beautiful cover. It's a beautiful cover.
I think the thing that inspired this was actually the tree on the cover of the book, What Want Brings, New and Selected Poems. I took a photo of that tree years ago. It was up in the woods, way up behind my house. And she looked like a mother with arms going around. And so I always loved that tree. And when I put this book together, I realized it was the only possible cover. So I think covers are really important. Mary would attest to that too, I think.
Oh, yes.
But one of the poems in the book is called Holy Beast. Once I was part of a holy beast. I was a dog, a bear, a horse. I was the leader and the dragging led. My fur was both sleek and shaggy, black and white. I was as tall as a stallion, long-maned, yet bony, as deep-withered as a dog. I barked and I whinnied, I growled. I cantered and I loped and lumbered. This was before I was born, before I slid from the cave where I was hailed, then demeaned for my unnatural cries. I rose up, red dog spinning rain, swirling band of pink. At last they knew me in my corner. The words they gave left. I barked again.
That's Bertha Rogers reading her poem, Holy Beast.
You ask a question about holy, the reason.
Yes, why Holy Beast?
Well, I think most other species are holy or more holy, certainly than humans. I've given up practically on humans. And I think there's this wonderful relationship you can have with other creatures if you let go your need to have everybody understand the human point of view. So they actually, I'll just read a couple of lines from the first poem in the book, which was the poem that inspired too. Just a couple of lines because it's a longer poem. And it's called What Want Brings. Gray rain seeps through the fall of played out clouds, loops among hills, ragged mountains, flexes and thins cut contoured fields. This here, nearly parallel to another September, when I, after tramping aged ley lines, leaned into standing stones that gently mocked my bent. And
Mm.
a lot of people have asked me about that title, What Want Brings.
Mhm.
And that the poem came first, but it came from, we always want. And sometimes we, and to Mick Jagger, to quote Mick, sometimes you can get what you need if you can't get what you want. And so the book is really an exploration of what I wanted. And in some cases, God, in some cases did not. And it is new and selected poems, so it's a compilation of several books, several full-length books and chapbooks as well.
And you have many artworks, also art books. Mary wants to say something. Yes, Mary.
Yeah.
I just want to observe about Holy Beast. It is so shamanically in the tradition of the Anglo-Saxon riddles. I felt like you're in the lineage right down from the Exeter book.
I know, I can't help it. I was born in the wrong century for sure. And once it was Beowulf that did it to me. And once I translated Beowulf, there was no going back.
That's wonderful. The poem has such movement in it. And I love that after the speaker is born, it's not born a human, it's born a dog.
Yeah.
And the dog barks and whinnies. This was I rose up, red dog spinning rain, swirling band of pink. Could you describe the last stanza a little bit for us?
The last stanza, I rose up, red dog spinning rain, swirling band of pink. At last they knew me in my corner. The words they gave left. I barked again. I've always had dogs. I've always been attracted to dogs and feel that if I understand anything, it's something about dogs and they understand me. And I lost one of my dogs a few weeks ago. She was 13 and she died. But the best thing was she managed to make it upstairs and she's at the top of the stairs and she just collapsed. And I sat with her. She had her head in my lap when she died. It was the best death I think I've ever, and I've had to put dogs to sleep, or cats to sleep. But she just died herself. And I thought that's the way to go if you have a choice.
And she must, the last line of the poem, I barked again. So maybe the dog barked again.
Yeah.
Another dimension. Bertha, would you read the poem again for us?
Okay.
Thank you.
Once I was part of a holy beast. I was a dog, a bear, a horse. I was the leader and the dragging led. My fur was both sleek and shaggy, black and white. I was as tall as a stallion, long-maned, red yet bony, as deep-withered as a dog. I barked and I whinnied, I growled, I cantered and I loped, I lumbered. This was before I was born, before I slid from the cave where I was hailed and demeaned for my unnatural cries. I rose up, red dog spinning rain, swirling band of pink. At last they knew me in my corner. The words they gave left. I barked again.
Thank you, Bertha. It's so vivid, so beautiful. And Mary, please introduce your book, In the Pool of the Sea's Shoulder.
This is from Dancing Girl Press, and it was published New Year's Eve, just as we turned
Wow.
it into 2025. And it is a long form poem, so it's all one poem, and it's multivocal. There are 5 soloists and 2 choruses, and it's inspired by a very intricate and very large statue that was fashioned in 1877 in Fukushima, Japan, and also by the life and death of my brother. This is very fictionalized, this poem. So he gave uh, gave forth to a lot of inspiration, but much of it is fictionalized. But when he was employed with New Mexico's education department, this was during the second Bush presidency, he made sure that no child was left behind by devising seminars for teachers so they could teach the students for real and also have them pass all those tests. And then he also volunteered with the Coalition for Equality, and they managed to get LGBTQ into the New Mexico state hate crimes law in 2003. It was the first in this country. So that
Wow.
was background for it. And it's also an atomic elegy. It's really an elegy for the atomic age.
I love that. An atomic elegy.
Has this poem been performed by several people? Or is it
No,
individual?
but I am looking into that, and I have a small theater that's looking at it, and I'm hoping, I think it would have to be adapted somewhat from what it is on the page, but I mean, with 2 little choruses and 5 soloists, I think that would be fantastic to have it performed. Actually, as it's developed over the years, people have heard me reading excerpts from it, and so many people have said, "Have you thought of having this on the stage?" You know, and so it's on the page right now, so that's a first step.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mary, please read the first excerpt from the book.
Okay.
M looking at a large sculpture in the museum.
Okay. We're only going to hear from 3 of the soloists during our show. And one of them is M. She's a sister who's grieving, and she has her grief kind of released by encountering the large statue. Fortunate Yamamoto Ichirobi and his 7 fellow artisans to fashion in Fukushima the kingdom of the sea. Fortunate in a faraway builder of canals whose family wanted art and turned for it to a rocky, sunburst country just opened to the west. Fortunate bream, manta ray, all the brass statuettes upon the statue, and crystal balls, to be admired in a rural New York town for 150 years and counting, instead of being melted down for weapons, or classed a second and withdrawn from the exposition, left to collect dust in a shed, then after the tsunami and the meltdown, one March day in the pool of the sea's shoulder to grow untouchably contaminated.
That's Mary Gilliland reading from her book, In the Pool of the Sea's Shoulder.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful. And that's the title of the book is in this excerpt. Who is M and who is Yamamoto Shirobi?
Okay,
Mary?
so M is one of the living speakers in the poem. it also includes a curator at the museum, and everyone else is gone, I guess, because one of them's sort of from another dimension, and the others are the Radium Girls, are a chorus, and the statuettes on the statue, they become a chorus later also. Um, and Yamamoto Ichirobi was the man who made the bell. And in another excerpt, it'll describe the actual look of the
Yes.
statue. And it's topped by this enormous bell. It's in the shape of a wave that goes up from the sea, and it's guarded by dragons. And so he was in charge of the metal smiths, I guess. It's made out of gold, silver, red, copper, all these different metals. And the museum card says it was made as an offering for treasure to come to Japan.
And you talk about contamination in the pool of the sea's shoulder. What happened to the sculpture, the Kingdom of the Sea?
Well, the Kingdom of the Sea was bought by the Arnott family, who lived in
Okay.
Elmira, and they willed their art collection and their house as the Arnott Museum to the people of Elmira. So that's where it wound up. And if it had stayed where it was made, it would have been uh, affected by the 2011 tsunami
Mhm.
and the meltdown in Fukushima, Japan. So,
So Elmira saved it,
well, I guess it did.
and you saved it. You made it famous now with your
Well,
with your poem. Um, let's go on. The works that you're reading are very, very different, and I would love you to talk about, both of you, how you find your poems, how they crop up in your being to write the poems when they occur.
I would say that they find me.
Ah,
I actually much of what I write is not experiential. It's not what happened in the day, that sort of thing. But I really, truly, truly, after my brother died, I needed to grieve him, and I knew I needed to do it in words, and I could not do it for years, after he died. And so the occasion for that whole topic opening up was discovering this statue and then discovering that it was related to Japanese legends and a legend of one of those boys that saves a creature in the sea and is rewarded by going to magical kingdom and told has to go home, and so he's given this box by the princess, and then she says don't open the box, and then of course he opens the box, and it's curtains, right? And it just seemed so emblematic. And also this statue, all these little sea creatures, they're offering boxes of things. And it's the loss. It just kind of opened it up as, this is my brother's life. This is all our lives.
thank you,
And
Mary.
the artwork was sort of the gift that found me.
I love that, the gift that
Yeah.
found you.
That's great. Yeah, mine find also. Speaking of death, I had a friend who died when we were both 16 in a car accident. And she and I were very close, and it took 30 some years before I could write it. And I wrote it as a pantoum. And I found that often if I'm having trouble with a poem, a formal approach will make it come through, because then you start concentrating on the words and how they sound and how they work together, and then the whole thing comes through. So,
Right.
or you'll be walking down the road and something happens. I'm furious because I had this great line that came to me the other day when I was walking in the garden, and I didn't write it down.
Yeah,
Oh,
that happened to me the other night too. Just
Heather,
kidding, go write this down.
we have to keep our notebooks with us at all times.
Yeah,
You know?
I get a lot from dreams.
Yeah. It's amazing how how something can gestate for years or, days, years or months, and you can't tell when it's going to come to fruition.
Right.
Oh,
Often I'll see something, I'll see a phrase or I'll hear a sentence and I don't know where it comes from, but this is the beginning of something. So often I'm following the language before I have a subject for the poem.
love it. I love that.
I've been reading a book by Alan Grossman, great Midwestern poet, a book about sightings and conversations between him and another poet. And he's very dense, but it's fascinating. And every time I pick up one of those kinds of books, like Robert Bly's Leaping Poetry, or
Yes, that's great.
those kinds of books, the million there are how to write poetry, you might find something. There are Swedish poets that I'm really interested in, and they don't write like a lot of American poets do. They let it come in, but they don't take it. They don't own it, and they let you know that they don't own it.
I think that's like a Transtromer.
Yes, that's exactly who I was thinking of, was Transtomer. The sad part, he had a stroke before he died, and I think it was a few years that he was totally incapacitated.
Mm,
And he had such a wealth of words. Amazing.
extraordinary. And the translations are great too. That really come through. Bertha, this is so interesting. We have a packed show planned, but I love what the two of you are saying. It's just so enlightening. Thank you. Bertha, would you read Hawk's Reason for us?
When I put this book together, I realized that almost all my poems address some kind of nature, something I've seen. And this was a red-tailed hawk I've seen a lot around here. So Hawk's Reason. When the hawk leaves his tree for movement among the green, when he aims earthward, the air opens for him as if sliced by a deft knife, space disappearing into time's aperture. The nosing gray vole, knowing she will cease, sharply screams twice. The hawk flexes lightning bright talons, his wings broadcast intent, close and break like thunder, dimming June's new blades. When the hawk's blazing claws wreathe the vole's rolling body, his gleaming beak arcs toward the fleet heart, and blood's first, deepest drop drops through blue. The whole sky opens, blameless and distinct.
Oh, so vivid. It's Bertha Rogers reading her poem, Hawk's Reason. Bertha, what is the hawk's reason? Just tell us briefly.
His reason is that he if he sees a vole and he's hungry, he gets it. And I mean, that's the beautiful thing about so many animals. They do what they need to do, and they don't have long conversations before about whether they should or shouldn't. They just do it.
I love the whole sky opens, blameless but distinct.
And that's part of that, of course, that the hawk is just doing what he's made to do. You can't blame him.
No. And the whole sky seems indifferent also, perhaps.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bertha. Okay, you're listening to Planet Poet Words in Space on WIOX Community Radio. I'm your host, Sharon Israel, and I'm very lucky to be here with poets Bertha Rogers and Mary Gilliland. Mary, would you read another excerpt from In the Pool of the Sea's Shoulder? And you have in parenthesis M, looking at a large sculpture in the museum.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now this takes place after some pages have gone by, but we're focusing on this sculpture today. I would break the glass encasement and reach above myself, ouch, spikes, to grasp its joined dragon's handle. and let it fly me 2,000 miles from this museum alcove in Elmira to the soft rug in your glowing adobe. Except I cannot budge, cannot wring metal from soldered metals, robed and human, except for their heads, octopus, puffer, cuttlefish, tucked in the loins of Yamamoto's wasp-waisted turning wave. The wave's third great twist, holding snapper and manta ray, as though below a pair of shoulders. Water in motion, hooking its own aura 10,000 times with its curled ends of brass foam.
That's Mary Gilliland reading from her book, her beautiful book, In the Pool of the Sea's Shoulders. This is a gigantic, you have a picture of this.
Yes, there's
Your
a picture
book.
inside the book. It's a whole page of the book.
And
Yes.
it's very rococo. It's very ornate. It's
Yeah.
almost Victorian, almost, even though it's Japanese.
Yes, and the little deities they're all wearing kimonos, but they'll have some kind of fish head or crustacean head. And it really was the animals that drew me to this sculpture. You have to look closely to see them. You can see the dragons sitting around the base and all these crystal balls, but if you kind of look inside, they're almost inconspicuous, but they're beautifully made, and they're all in this gesture of offering. And that's, I guess, why possibly that's what motivates the speaker, M, to want to just be able to fly this to the Adobe in Albert. It's in New Mexico. It's not even inhabited anymore, but she just wants to, share this with her brother and his partner, who really loved art, and kind of a wishfully to be together through this great achievement, and this paradox of it's solid metal, it's hard as metal, but it's so delicate because it's all water. It's representing water.
That comes through in your poem. And it is an ekphrastic poem within the body of the larger poem.
Now, this proves that you always do what you say you will never do.
Me?
Because I said, oh no, I'm not going to do that, And then now I became a major victim to this with this poem. This is just less than half of the poem, the whole manuscript.
That's right. That's right. but the grasping its join, the dragon's handle, and let it fly me 2,000 miles from this museum alcove. It is an incredible image of grasping, but you can see it, and all of a sudden I'm flying somewhere.
Okay.
So.
There is a spirit canoe later in the poem. There's a shamanic spirit canoe, and so
am I surprised? I don't think so. Okay, we're going back to the Catskills now. Bertha, if you would read In the Catskills from your book Heart Turned Black, that was published in 2009.
Yes. Okay, here it is.
Okay.
In the Catskills. Even the hemlock grows indifferent to life, dies standing, keeping his secret for untold prideful years. The tree's needles diminish, bark and heartwood degenerate to dust. When the north wind hears of this, he offers a parting kiss, and the tree falls into the arms of his fellows, who carry the corpse on their gnarled shoulders. 100 years procession, a stately bearing back to the mountain's body.
That's In the Catskills. Go ahead, Bertha.
Yeah, the Catskills. And I have one called In the Adirondacks too. There's this thing about, where trees in a big forest, they fall on each other. It takes a long time. It takes a long time. And I was backpacking, and there was this tree. And and that it offers itself to me. That's how,
Mm.
you know,
It's there's a lot of sensuality, but a lot of love in this poem. That
yeah.
they hold each other. It's why would you say that even the hemlock grows indifferent to life, Bertha?
Because we often think, in a woods, we think this is a living woods. And whereas people have the choice, or we think they have the choice, to love life or hate life or become indifferent to life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was equating that with humans and other creatures and trees and shrubs. And now we've found out, since I wrote this a long time ago, we found out that trees feed each other. That it's so
Oh,
wonderful.
is it
If something goes,
through the root system, like
yeah,
the
yeah,
aspens?
yeah, and if something goes wrong with one of the trees, the others help it. I mean, it's it just it's how I can't even I can't even think it. And yet I'm so happy I planted 1,000 Norway spruces when I came up here 35 years ago.
Wow.
They're about 100 feet tall now.
Wow.
And I go in there and it's theirs. And the whole climate, as you know, from going in the woods, even the small woods, the whole atmosphere changes. It's a different temperature. Everything is different. And the trees brought bears, brought fishers. They made it possible for all these other creatures to come.
So it's
Oh,
an ecosystem
yes,
more
yeah,
than, but that the trees helping each other, it makes
yeah.
it,
It's amazing, and especially if they're a group, like a family of trees, like the 1,000 spruces together. And of course, the greatest tree of all time is that tree in Colorado and New Mexico, Wyoming. The one tree that people thought was many trees, but it is one living creature.
mm, that's the are those the that
Yeah,
aspen complex,
yeah,
but it goes to all trees. I love
yeah.
that you have the north wind's kiss. So everybody's involved. And I thought of the demise of the hemlock. It's
Yeah, the woolly adelgid. Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
I don't know if that has to do with the tanning industry, but they're they're fairly rare now. Um, I couldn't help it. I thought of the Ents also from Token.
I know. I always think of the ants. I always think of the ants. I love the ants. I just have this wonderful picture of these lumbering trees just slowly moving.
That's
It's great.
wonderful. Um, Mary, would you read another excerpt from In the Pool of the Sea's Shoulder? And this,
Okay, I will.
yes,
Yes.
and introduce it a little bit for us.
I will. This is so the speaker of the first two excerpts, M, is in mourning, and she's in mourning for the two people who speak now, which is Alberto and Freddie. Now, throughout the poem, sometimes they're speaking about her to each other, one of them to the other, or commenting on her. But in this excerpt, they're having a conversation out there in the afterlife, and they're speaking about the place where they lived, which is New Mexico. You may have seen the license plates, Land of Enchantment. And it was curious as I was writing this, at a certain point, the landscape of New Mexico became almost like a character. I didn't give it a voice, but it
Mhm.
wanted
Mhm.
vocalization. And so there's a good bit of different features of it. So here they are in the afterlife. And this is just an excerpt of one of their conversations. Now we listen in the dark. Remember, once there was a life, a land of enchantment. Most of the stayed in the mountains, nudging the Rockies. High desert climate is not always warm. Maybe near Chihuahua you'll find it desert-like or hot. Most of New Mexico is not. But it's gnarly. Some of the disputes go back to land grants from the King of Spain. And meanwhile, the tap is dry. Roots from the Siberian elm next door keep cracking or blocking the pipes that bring water to your kitchen sink. That plant was an import. Land where clouds are portals to the doorway of the sky. Listening in the dark, or in a sunny empty space above cracked earth. Below ground, uranium gathers in black shales and other rocks rich in organic matter where oxygen is absent. Quartz gleams unseen in the unseen shining granite. Beneath the adobe where we lived, Al, quartz veins cut the granite, bearing nickel, cobalt, silver, pitch blend. The dark glows in the dark.
The dark glows in the dark. The afterlife, does that have anything to do with the half-life of uranium?
I hadn't thought of that, but it is interesting how our loved ones stay with us, in spirit, but it doesn't directly. It's more like their darkness is, well, I just think of them as in outer space. So it's dark out there. It's dark underground where the pitch blende is, where the uranium comes from. And also I think about, what do we know, right? This all-knowing species of us, we're in the dark.
Totally.
We certainly are. The trees and the earth have a better idea. Now we listen in the dark, listening in the dark. The dark glows in the dark. So that's rhythmically repeated throughout. And I can see this being performed, as you said, Bertha.
I was just going to say that. It's definitely needs to be out loud.
Well, okay. Which of you would like to be the agent?
I did my time in theater, no more.
And you have it. You have one speaker is in italics on the page, and the one other speaker is not, and that gives you.
Yes, the first page of the book actually is called The Family, and that's actually where each of the speakers is listed and described. And it's also like a font margin typographic key to their voice all throughout the poem, whether it's plain text, italic text, indented, how much is it intended. There's also a character we will not meet today called the Fisherman, who's completely mysterious and probably is part of a shamanic realm. And he does small caps strike through. That's his.
Oh, that's him. I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
And does he live in the in the sculpture, the Kingdom of the Sea?
No, he doesn't live in the sculpture, but I just started thinking how valuable water is in New Mexico. Like I spent a summer there at the Wurlitzer Foundation, and it was a great thing going out to see the Rio Grande right outside of Taos. And it's like and I say this somewhere in the poem, it's like almost like a creek in the Northeast. Like how precious water is there. It's just amazing.
And the politics of it all too.
Yeah.
That's right. The disputes that go back to the King of Spain.
I was there. Taos is beautiful. And when the Rio Grande, when we were there a while ago, it was big, very large. It was like,
Oh, good.
but that's a while ago. I can't even remember how long. How do you approach nature? Is that too broad a question? And how, I mean, Mary, you've approached nature in your books, and this atomic elegy is filled with nature, but it's different.
It's different in that it's also filled with things and stuff and human activities, and more, that is part of my quote nature poems. I have a book that was just accepted by a press in Amherst, Massachusetts, called what's it called? Red Tide at Sandy Bend.
Mm.
And it's about the disaster that are the harmful algal blooms, which I thought of this morning on the news. There was this big report about the south coast of Australia. They are being ruined by harmful algal blooms.
Yeah.
I live at the base of Cayuga Lake, which is essentially closed for the summer. Nobody's swimming in the lake.
Really?
And yeah, and so I'm very glad this manuscript just got accepted a couple weeks ago, but it's unfortunately timely, you know. And I just want to incidentally tie this in with Bertha because when she was trying to contact me to tell me I won the Bright Hill Press Prize, I was at Sandy Bend. I was one of three writers that was given the inaugural residency at Sandy Bend by
Wow.
Red Mountain Press, and it's the only residency. When we got there, we were told not to go in the water. What a shock. Here I am on Sanibel Island in November, and oh boy, oh, finally, my life dream has come true. I'll just be, relaxing in the beach. You couldn't go outside without wearing a mask because it really is harmful, the toxins that the algal blooms put off. So Bertha contacted me there.
How things come around.
Yeah, about the ruined walled castle garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when did you win the prize? What year?
2019, November. I was at Sandy Bend, so I remember.
2019.
Yeah, that was sort of the beginning of my publishing career. I've been a finalist for 21 years in national contests, and Bertha choosing that just broke things open. The
Fantastic.
next year, I won the Cod Hill Prize, and it's just, people say, "Oh, you're so prolific," but you see, I always wrote poetry. It's just
Right. I know
shuffling the cards.
somebody mentioned to me recently there were 19 years between my first full-length book and my second.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
In between time, I got it together and I counted how many individual poems had been published,
Mm.
and it was close to 600.
Wow.
But it took 19 years.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that people forget, that if it's worth it, you just keep plugging away at it. And if you send it out and it comes back with comments like, we're not taking it, but then you look at it again.
That's
And
a,
maybe I've got what
that's a good rejection. I like
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. Well, what I brought today to this was several versions of the poems, and I noticed the changes I'd made. Sometimes they were small, and sometimes they take years.
Mhm.
And if anybody's listening to this, I would like to say, if you're serious about it, you don't give up, and you don't expect the world. You just keep doing it. It's the job,
It's the joy.
and it's the job with joy. It's the best. It's certainly the best job you could have.
I really agree. If my finalist manuscripts had won and been published, I would not be standing by them so proudly as what evolved over the
Right.
years.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because the same thing happens to me. Once in a very great while, a poem comes through. Maybe that's happened this many times. See my hand? Those
Yeah, I see
five
your
times in
Five
my life.
fingers.
But more often, it's like there's all this stuff sort of all over the drafting table in the shelves or whatever, and then a little like bump will go through my head. It's like, oh, that line, oh, that ending, oh, whatever, and it's not linear for me.
Mhm.
right.
It's all one
Right.
big spiral.
Yeah, and it comes all of a sudden, and then you say, I've had a few poems like that too, maybe five, as you said,
Yeah.
that come like that, and they come fully formed in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But more likely they take a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a great job because you don't ever have to be satisfied. You can just keep,
That's
well, what
that's
about this
wonderful.
word?
And it's also, it could be comforting to our listeners who are poets that putting together a collection or a chapbook or whatever takes, you can't say how long it's going to take.
No,
Give
no.
yourself time. As you said, you could take years, or you have to give yourself time for it to meld and come together.
Yeah.
I remember one time I answered the phone. Somebody was asking me, to do something, but they were chatting first. They said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I was just writing a poem that," and then he says, "Oh, the one that got interrupted 7 years ago," because that's sort of how life gives it to you. That's why for me, going to a residency is so it makes everything possible. It
It's
makes all the rest of life
right.
possible.
I've
Yeah.
gone I've gone to a lot of residencies too, and oh my God, I can narrow it down to the moment something happened. Or in this residency, there was an eagle that flew by. Or in this those residencies are beautiful. I went to my first one in 1996. The
Uh,
first one I applied to was McDowell, and I went to it. And
Wow.
it was
yeah.
like, oh God, this is truly heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are no distractions. Did you
Oh,
find that you could concentrate more on your work in
yeah.
different ways?
And some of them, like McDowell, they bring your lunch in a little basket and put it outside your door. I love that. They all have little quirks.
And also, the other people there all understand if you just say, "Oh, not now." You don't
Yeah,
even have to explain
right.
because everybody who's there is passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah,
And when you do get together, it's very fructifying, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
The dinner meal is a fun time.
Mhm.
So anyway, it's a I feel very lucky. And I feel, when I'm working on a poem and I notice there ends up being a lot of sound, and they don't start out that way. But I am really interested in how
Mhm.
poems sound.
Mhm.
Sound.
And
Yes.
Word Thursdays was begun because I've always believed that poetry should be said, should be
Hmm.
spoken.
Yes.
Hmm.
And when I write poems, I need to I need to say them out loud as I'm writing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
This got to be some kind of spoken component or getting it outside of yourself, outside of your
yeah,
body. So
yeah.
Yeah.
this is a
Uh,
great conversation,
Wonderful.
in the
Mary
great
and
body of
Bertha.
poetry.
This is
Uh,
wonderful. So, Mary, you have a new book accepted, and
I
Bertha, what's
actually,
going?
yeah,
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I actually have two.
Wow.
There's another one. It's been in the works for a long time, but it's a small press in Yorkshire or Lancashire. Arc Publications. They've been going for about 50 years in England, the UK.
Hmm.
But I think it will be out in September, this one.
Let me
Wonderful.
know. Let me know. And Bertha,
Okay.
what's coming up for you? Are you?
Well, I, after, in between this, I did the Anglo-Saxon riddle book, the, the 95 poems from the Anglo-Saxon riddle book. And, I
You were on the show with that book, I believe.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I did the illuminations. And that was when I finished that, I thought, well, I could just die right now because but it's very
Uh,
true. It's very clear to me that the Anglo-Saxon has affected all my poems,
Mhm.
everything I write
mm,
because of that rhythm. And when I first translated Beowulf, I
mm,
listened to Kemp Malone, who
mm,
was a Beowulf scholar on
mm,
Cadman Records,
mm,
reading Beowulf in the Anglo-Saxon. And this was when I lived in New York and I was biking around with my Walkman, listening to Kemp Malone. And I wanted to get the rhythm. I thought, okay, there will be some mistakes in translating, but I thought the rhythm was absolutely necessary. And I still think I was right about that. So anyway,
yes.
and it led to this, to what want brings. and we'll see what comes next.
Thank you. Thank you. Any last thoughts?
I was thinking about this Anglo-Saxon, and earlier, Sharon, you asked us how does a poem start?
Mhm.
And for me, I don't always know what the word means, but there's a rhythm. And I think that's very true, Bertha. I mean, I did Anglo-Saxon in college. I did all the sagas. I did everything that was below 1300, before
I
1300.
know.
And it really does feel like in my blood. I think that's one of the big links that we have,
Yeah,
you and I, and people that make standing stones and recite
yeah,
Anglo-Saxon.
yeah.
Oh,
And you know, I got married in a stone circle.
Yeah,
That
we
did
was,
did too.
you?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
My kids were up last weekend and they went up and cleaned up around the standing stones.
Oh, that's so nice. Huh.
Yes, it is.
Th- This has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show, Mary Gilliland and Bertha Rogers,
Thank you.
and reading your beautiful work and telling us all about it.
Sharon, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, and
Oh,
this is a special show we've done.
oh my goodness, makes me very happy. And thank you all for listening. And you can find more information on my guests and their books at their websites, marygilliland.com. That's GILLILAND.com and bertharogers.com.